but good morning and thank you for attending. I'm Attorney General William Tong. Now, obviously, you know I'm not, but if you were to get a letter, an email, signed by the Attorney General, you wouldn't know that it's not from him, right? Okay. That is one of the many criteria that a lot of the scam artists focus on. They try to find a weakness, they try to find somebody that's very trusting, and they use this to work their way into knowing you, into you letting your guard down, and eventually into scamming you, whether it's with a financial gain or personal information, whatever they need to find a way to make money or use your information for their benefit. What I'm going to do is talk about the many different types of scams out there, how you can avoid becoming a victim of a scam, hopefully, and then what you can do if you find yourself a victim of a scam. I'm first going to start off by giving you some pretty startling statistics. And these are statistics from 2018. They have not compiled them yet for 2019. That usually doesn't happen until around March. In 2018, Connecticut residents filed 21,000 complaints. The loss for Connecticut residents, $8.5 million, or about $300 per resident. The top 3 categories for the Connecticut residents were imposter scams. That is when somebody pretends to be you, usually for financial gain. Identity theft, when somebody, again, assumes your identity for multiple purposes. And debt collection, when you're scammed into thinking that you really owe a debt and you send money to somebody. Most identity theft is done via credit card. Okay? It's the simplest way for them to use your credit card information and get a lot of charges on there that sometimes people find themselves responsible for or don't even notice it and go ahead and pay it. Now, nationwide, in 2018, consumers filed 1.4 million fraud complaints. That totaled almost $1.5 billion in losses. That's a heck of a lot of money that comes out of somebody's pocket and goes to a fraudster. Nearly 1 in every 5 people were a victim of fraud. Telephone was the most common method used by the fraudsters. And again, you get a phone call, you don't know if it's your credit card company calling, you don't know if it's your billing department of a hospital, you don't know where that call is coming from these days. And the way that the scammers spoof the numbers, they could be calling from outside the country and it looks like it's coming right here from Groton. Could even be your own phone number that's calling your house, which is a little freaky. Okay. My suggestion to you is that, first of all, if you don't recognize the phone number, don't even answer it. If you do pick up the phone, you realize it's not somebody that you would be expecting a phone call from or that you know, hang up. The more time you spend on the phone with somebody, the more apt you are to release some personal information about yourself. Wire transfers is the most common way of people sending money to the fraudsters. Okay. A lot of the latest trends by the scammers is that they'll convince somebody to go down to grocery store, CVS, and purchase green dot cards, gift cards, anything of that nature for a certain amount of money. Then the scammers will call you back and ask you for the numbers on the back of the card. As soon as you give them those numbers, they immediately take the monetary amount off that card. Gone. Our office worked with a family out of Torrington. This is about 2 years ago. Very, very simple family, very nice, gentle family. Didn't own a computer, but the grandmother got a call from somebody purporting to be calling on behalf of her grandson, the grandparent scam, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more later. And Before you know it, Graham, it's me. Bobby, is that you? Well, just by saying, Bobby, that's you, you've already given away the name of your grandchild. Okay? Again, they have a way of getting the information out of you. This is what they do all day long. And I'm going to say it once, I'm going to say it twice, I'm probably going to say it a number of times. If they weren't good at it, they wouldn't be doing it. But with the statistics I gave you, clearly they're very good at it. And just like they want to put food on their family's table, like we do, they want to do the same thing. It really is just a shame that they don't do it legally because they are very good at it. And I'm sure the law enforcement will tell you it's almost impossible to catch them because they don't have the manpower to go after everybody that loses $500 here, $1,000 here. It's just not possible. Not possible for our office to do it either. And we're sure as heck not going to get on a plane and go over to India to try to recover money. It's just not possible to happen. So that's why, and I thank you all for coming here, but that's why education and learning about these scams and what to do is so vitally important. All of you work hard for your money. Everybody does. That should be your discretion as far as how you want that money spent, not being given away to a scammer. Okay. So again, I was saying that wire transfers is the most common method of getting somebody to send money. And as soon as you hit that send button, that money is gone. And sometimes that money will get sent to a particular post office box or another like Western Union MoneyGram station. Somebody will be there to pick up that check. It gets wired to another one, another one, another one. There's no way to track because there could be so many different people involved with it. Wire transfers accounted for $423 million in lost income to people. A 2017 article reported that the Social Security numbers of hundreds of deceased persons were used to earn nearly $30 million. The Social Security numbers of elderly and deceased persons was also used for work purposes. Social Security numbers belonging to over 1,000 persons over the age of 85 were used to generate $145 million in earnings over a 5-year period. Okay. I'm going to suggest to you, and I'm going to talk about this again, and I apologize, I kind of bounce around as, because I don't want to miss things, so when it comes up, I'll talk about it. If you have somebody that's deceased, I highly recommend that you call the credit card companies and put a freeze on the credit reporting bureaus and put a freeze on that Social Security number to prevent it from being used by somebody else. Same thing with minor children. They're not going to use that Social Security number for all intents and purposes for a number of years. Protect it. Put a freeze on it. In the last year, again going back to 2018, those age groups that were most affected by fraud were people aged 60 to 69. Can somebody tell me why 60 to 69? That's probably part of it. I'm sure it is. Anybody else? 60 to 69, what are you getting ready for? Retirement. You're getting ready, you know what your savings are, you're thinking about getting your pension. A lot of people have their mortgages paid off. They maybe are downsizing with their housing, so they have less expenses there. College loans are paid off for their kids, or hopefully getting towards that end there. So you thought to have a nest egg. So that's why you're that age group is in particular a target. The next age group is 50 to 59, and then 40 to 49. 40 to 49, starting to think about maybe buying a house, new car, starting to invest. There's a purpose why the scammers go after different age groups. Why are so many seniors targeted? As I said, you're thought to have a nice little nest egg. A lot of you are home by yourself during the day, lonely. All those reasons factor in. For some people, that call from that scammer may be the only phone call that they get for a month. We had a situation at work where this woman got a phone call, had a nice little conversation with the guy. Then the phone calls started coming more and more frequently. to the point where he was calling her every day and she was waiting for that phone call. And by that point, they have a nice rapport going and so forth. She lost quite a bit of money. Sad but true. Okay. I know I just gave you some pretty startling statistics. Okay. A lot of money is lost to the scammers. A lot of your hard-earned money lost to scammers. So what I want to do is just do a little icebreaker. Okay. We all know that what is our most vital piece of information that we have?
Social Security.
Bingo, right. And why? Because we need it for virtually everything, at least initially. Going to go for a mortgage, open up a bank account, going to go to the doctor's office for billing purposes, and so forth. We live by our Social Security number. It's that one piece of information that should be just for you. Okay. So a lot of us learn to memorize our Social Security number, right? You don't always want to carry your card on you. You shouldn't carry your card on you. Okay. So I bet I can say my Social Security number faster backwards than you can. Go ahead.
I'm not going to say it.
Very good. Very good. You would be amazed at the number of people that will start reciting their Social Security number to me, and I'll immediately stop them and say, wait a second, you've known me for 5 minutes. I said I'm from the Attorney General's office, but I also said I was Attorney General William Tong. So you really don't know who you are speaking with. Now I have to say, and Joyce can attest to this, my name is Christine Buck, and I am an investigator within the Attorney General's office. But that is one of the biggest problems, is that people are so willing, once they feel comfortable with somebody, to give out their personal information. And when you think about it, if somebody knows the last 4 digits of your Social Security number, Social Security numbers, the first 3 numbers, as I'm sure many of you are aware, it is directed by the region in which you apply for that Social Security card. So in the Northeast, 040, 041, 042, 043. Well, if you have the last 4 of somebody's Social Security number, and say you want to scam somebody in Connecticut, try any one of those 4 combinations. And then how difficult is it to just go and put 2 different numbers in for the middle numbers and try to come up with a valid Social Security number? If you've got time on your hands and you already have half the puzzle, filling in the rest of it isn't really that difficult. So you need to protect your information. Very, very important. Why are so many scammers successful? Because they use fear and bullying built on emotion. And what I mean by that is, as an example, that grandparent scam. You get a phone call that your grandchild is injured, in jail, anything of that nature. As human beings, usually the hair on the back of our neck goes up, we start sweating, and we're so distracted by what they're saying that common sense goes right out the window or goes on a shelf. We're very concerned with taking care of that grandchild, that loved one that's in trouble. And of course, the scammers know this. They know all of this. So if you get something like that, a phone call like that, such as the grandparent scam, and I'm going to start talking about the scams in a minute. And the other thing I wanted to say also is that these are phone calls. It's a lot more difficult to scam somebody when you're face-to-face with them. I mean, we all know. Is it easy to lie if somebody's standing in front of you, or is it easier to lie when you're on the phone with somebody? Okay? So, with regards to the grandparent scam, you get a phone call like that, and I'm using that one as an example. Any kind of call of that nature that's alarming, that kind of sends your red flags up, something in your gut says, is this really right or not? If possible, and you're with somebody else, give that person that you're with, try to get them a message to say, hey, call Bobby. Is he okay? Is there a phone number I can call you back? I'm not comfortable talking to you now, because if it's that important, if it really is an emergency, they're going to call you back, or you're going to be able to make that phone call out to make sure that they were okay. And as a matter of fact, with the grandparent, scam, that the family I talked about in Torrington, when they and I apologize, I just did a speech late last night, so if I say the same things again and repeat myself, I do apologize. But with that particular grandparent scam up in Torrington, as I said, very simple people. They went down, they got first they had to do $5,000. Scammers called them back. They read them the numbers off the back of the card. That money was gone. Scammers called them back and said, oh, by the way, the judge raised the bail. They need another $5,000. Well, we don't have another $5,000. All we have is another $4,000. That's all we have in our savings. We'll take it. Go down to CVS again, get more of the green dot cards, take the numbers off the back of them. Now, the daughter who went with them was actually a little savvy. She took pictures of the backs of the cards, and she kept the receipts. She called our office, and we worked really quickly with Apple to try to identify the numbers on the back of the card. There was one card that the scammers missed taking the money off. Out of $9,000 in savings, Apple was able to give that couple $500 back. You really have to be ever so careful. You really do. Let's talk about some of the common scams. I already talked about the grandparent scam. The ever annoying, unsolicited phone calls. We all get them. The various phone companies are trying to work with different government agencies and even at the federal level to try to combat this. I was at a robocall symposium with the Attorney General, who apologizes he could not be here today. His schedule is one that he generally does not know until the day before where he really has to be. And even though he can make plans for something, if he gets called out to Washington or something in the legislature, unfortunately that takes priority. But I was at a robocall symposium down in Brantford, and they were talking about, and he was there with a number of different representatives and so forth with the BBB and Department of Consumer Protection, and they're really trying to focus on attacking this at the federal level, making those phone companies be more accountable, making those phone companies not release information, not sell off phone numbers. Okay, so he joined, I think, 51 other attorney generals and other states' legislative bodies on this committee to try to combat that. Because we know how expensive it is for people when they lose money, and we know how annoying it is when you get those phone calls. When I was at my speech last night, a gentleman came up to me, and he was talking about, now, our office, we cannot endorse any particular event, or device, but he did mention a device that he had just purchased, and he found it very, very successful. And when you go online, you can look it up and see. The particular device that he was talking about is called DCB, as in David Charlie Blue, DCB Plus. And this particular device grabs all the contacts from his phone that are in his phone and imports that into the device, and those are the only phone numbers that will ring at his house. And you can add to it whenever you want. But I thought that that's a really interesting device, because then there's other ones out there like No More Robo, which will go through a process, and if it detects that it's a spam call, it won't even ring at your house. But this one seems to be even a little more sophisticated, geared towards just those phone numbers of people that you would expect to call you. Okay. 87% of Connecticut adults received at least one robocall in the month of this past April. That's almost every senior out there receiving at least one robocall. And heaven knows we all received a lot more than that. Okay. A little more information on the information that's coming about the robocall symposium and what our Attorney General joined. The phone companies are working to prevent illegal robocalls by implementing call blocking devices, making available to customers additional free, easy-to-use call blocking and labeling tools, implementing different technology, and monitoring their networks for robocalls. The phone companies are going to be assisting the Attorney General's robocall enforcement by knowing who their customers are, investigating and taking action on those robocalls that are reported. So I greatly suggest if you continue to get robocalls, especially from specific numbers, you can go to the Federal Trade Commission's website and report it on there. They do track them, and there are occasions when they are able to shut down those phone numbers. And again, requiring telephone companies with which they contract to cooperate in tracing those numbers. So going back to the annoying phone calls, what you should not do is respond to any phone calls, emails, or mail that are unsolicited in nature or unfamiliar to you. Again, don't trust your caller ID. I tell you, like 8 years ago, it was the best thing since sliced bread, caller IDs. Now, it doesn't really help much at all. Okay. What you can do is if you do get one of those calls or continue calls, Google the number. Sometimes people will blog that they are getting constant calls from these particular numbers. That will be initial knowledge to you that, yes, it's a robocall out there. I'm one of many people getting calls from that number. Again, report it to the Federal Trade Commission. And if you think it's something that really should be looked into by you, because there is a possibility that it is a legit call, ask them for a phone number and call them back. But first, Google the number. Say if it's Citibank or something like that. You do your own homework. You Google that number and you find out the correct number. And also, legitimate calls coming into your house have to be made between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Solicitors cannot swear at you or use profanity. They cannot threaten you. They cannot threaten to have you arrested or deported. So if you get a phone call from somebody that is behaving in this manner, rest assured, it's not a legit one. Okay. I talked about the emergency grandparent scam. Identity theft. That is, again, when somebody assumes your identity, generally for financial gain. Report that to identitytheft.gov. They compile all kinds of reports on it and see if they can do anything to help you out. Certainly contact the 3 credit reporting bureaus. Discuss with somebody at one of those bureaus putting a fraud alert on your credit or even a freeze. Order a free copy of your credit report. You get one a year. And I actually have pamphlets over there. Please take some pamphlets with you. A lot of good information on the various scams out there, which are put out by the Federal Trade Commission. But you should get your free credit report once a year. You ought to make sure that those accounts that are listed on there are ones that you opened up. Why should somebody else be benefiting off of your good credit? You have to do your own due diligence and homework, because if you don't, somebody else is going to be doing it for you. One of the other scams is the "Can you hear me now" scam. You get a phone call, little hesitation there, maybe a little rattling going on in the background, and you're saying hello, and there's "Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?" Well, what they're doing is you respond yes. They're taping that yes, and then later using it to say, "Oh yes, you agreed to these terms and conditions. Here you are. Here's your voice." So if you get one of those phone calls, again, that just does not seem right because there's hesitation before somebody, when somebody calls you, the first thing they're going to say immediately is, "Hello." You have a hesitation like that? Put your red flags up. Okay? Hang up the phone. The IRS or debt collection, FBI scam. I can, again, rest assured, and we have the police here that can confirm, they're not going to come after you for $500. They're not going to call you and tell you, "I'll be over your house in a half an hour to arrest you." It's not going to happen. They don't expect you to be sitting home waiting on your couch for somebody to come over and arrest you. Again, a scam. Don't fall for it. Tax-related identity theft is also a big problem, especially at this time of year. I encourage you to try to get your taxes done as early in the year as you possibly can. Because if somebody has gotten a hold of your Social Security number, you want to make sure that you beat them to it in filing for your taxes. And also, if you do become aware of identity theft with yourself or a family member, by all means, let your accountant know. Because he deals with your Social Security number in a very, very important way. Okay. Let's see. The jury duty scam. Now, a lot of people in this room are part of the generation where they take their jury duty obligation very seriously. I'm included in that. I was born into it. You know, as soon as you turn, 16 or whatever, you go down and you sign up to register and, you get your jury duty obligations. But you will get a phone call. People have gotten phone calls from somebody saying, hi, I'm calling from, Groton Courthouse. I would like to tell you that, I'm looking here in our computer. I noticed that you were supposed to be here for jury duty yesterday. And again, you get that unnerving phone call. Your emotions are triggered. Are you sure? Yes, I have it right here in the computer. And I'm also looking to see that you must take your obligation very seriously because you never miss. Oh my gosh, no, I don't. And again, with them contacting older people, you're more, you feel that sense of urgency more because you do take your obligations so seriously. But don't worry, Mrs. Jones, I can help you out. Again, I see that you are so attentive in your obligations here. I can take care of it. There is a fine that goes with it. But what I can do is I can record that in our system right now that it's been paid, and then you don't have to worry about it until your next jury duty obligation. All I need is a credit card, or they'll ask for your bank account information. And again, it's unnerving. People give the information out. Let's see. The romance scams, another one. It's really, really sad. And especially, again, more and more older people, they find themselves alone. They want that contact with people. They want a companionship. They want somebody to hang out with, somebody to talk to. You're lonely. I understand. And so do the scammers. Okay? So be very careful. Again, there's a reason why it takes them a while before they'll even want to meet with you in person. And if you're on a romance site, don't be convinced that those pictures up there are really the person that you are communicating with. Okay? Be very careful. Very careful. And the other thing, too, is that people are more comfortable discussing things with those in their own age group. There are certain things that I wouldn't talk to my dad about, but I would talk to one of my girlfriends about, or my husband about. Okay? Seniors are no different than teenagers. If something comes across and it doesn't seem right, or you get that red flag, the gut going and stuff like that, talk to somebody else in your age group about it. See what they have to say. See what they could recommend. Don't keep it to yourself, especially if it's something that's not quite right. Another scam is the living companion. This is pretty recent from what I understand. I could be wrong, but that's where you have somebody that you hire to be a living companion with a family member. However, that person that you hired that has passed the background checks and you feel very comfortable with, then hire somebody else, unbeknownst to you, that is actually taking care of your loved one. So when you pay that person who you think is taking care of, then they'll pay the other person. So you really don't know who is taking care of your loved one. All right? A lottery scam. You can't win if you don't play. Lotteries from out of the country are illegal. So when you get that letter that says, hey, you won $1.2 million, all you have to do is pay the taxes on it. Send us a check or wire the money to us, and then we'll release the check to you. If you cannot even produce a lottery ticket that you played, how did they ever pull you out as a winner? Okay? Don't fall for it. Texting scams. Again, a lot of us have our own cell phones now. You get a message that you don't think is quite right. You can actually forward that to SPAM in your phone. What's that? 77, what is it? Let's see here. Bear with me 1 second. Well, it's spam. Okay. I'll come up with that number. But you can actually forward that text to that particular number, and they will, and it gets reported as well. I caution you, do not hit, if you're given the opportunity to hit stop or unsubscribe, don't. What that's doing is it's validating that the phone number that they are communicating with you on is a valid phone number. Same thing if you get an email. Do not hit unsubscribe in the body of that email because you don't know where that's really going to go. If you want to unsubscribe to something, Google the site yourself. Say Wells Fargo. Google the site yourself. Or call Wells Fargo and ask for the fraud department. Are you sending out these kind of emails? They'll tell you. But do not click on anything within an email. Do not click on a link within an email, unless, of course, you know exactly who it's from. But again, now, you'll get a lot of emails that will just say the person's name, who you think is a friend of yours, and then there will be a link in it. Well, that person's been hacked. Okay? If you feel that there's a problem with your credit card or your bank, call them directly. Speak to somebody. A lot of us, we go into the same branches all the time. Somebody there will be able to help you out. I'm sorry, it was 7726. That was the number, spell spam, 7726. Okay. Internet use. If you use a public computer, be very careful when you're inputting your password. And likewise, and this kind of goes off on a little side note here, a lot of us use debit cards or credit cards. So you're in the store, you slide your card through, you put your chip in there, and it asks for your PIN number. Take precaution. There's nothing wrong with, and what I usually do is have my wallet out, and I'll just kind of use it to block the person next to me. Because with cell phones, it's not uncommon for somebody to be taking a picture or a video of somebody inputting their PIN code, their PIN number onto that ATM pad. Okay? So try to take whatever steps you can. Let's see here. There's so much, I don't want to take up everybody's whole days here. I'm just going to try to skip around a little bit. Going to buy a car. Ladies, and obviously I'm speaking for myself also, bring a man with you. Perception means so much. My husband and I went to buy a van, God, a number of years ago now, and I'm the one communicating with the salesman. You would never know it. I'm sitting right in front of him. My husband Ron's sitting over here. He never directed anything to me. It was all to my husband. And I was the one doing all the talking. And I was doing the talking because of the nature of my job. Okay? But perception really means a lot. When a woman walks into a car dealership with a guy, less opportunity in their minds that they're going to be able to pull one over. If you can bring a mechanic with you, even better. So you can take that car out for a test drive. The number of calls that we get where people have bought a car, they don't even get it home, and it's smoking. And the sales agreement says, as is, no warranty. Might as well take your money and put it through a shredder. Check. When you look inside that car, pull up the floor mats. Check to see if they seem musty or wet. If so, there's a good indication that that car was involved in a flood. After we had the floods down in Louisiana, a number of those cars that were worthless got sent up out of Louisiana. So be very careful. Look on the side walls there. Do you see any watermarks? Check it out. I want to now that I've talked about a lot of the scams and the things that you should make yourself aware of, I want to talk a little bit more about when I had the opportunity to sit in on the presentation by Frank Abagnale. Don't know if you've ever heard of Frank Abagnale. They made the movie Catch Me If You Can after him. He was a fraudster and went to prison, and our government did a fabulous thing. They hired him when he got out of prison. Who better to learn from than somebody that's done it, somebody that beat the system for the longest time. He was absolutely fascinating, and I know that Joyce, he was available at the casino, last fall, right? Yeah, Mohegan Sun. Yeah, he is. From the time he started walking across the stage, I never put down my pen. It was fabulous. So if you ever hear that he's going to be presenting a speech anywhere, I highly encourage you to go see him. He does have his own website, but some of the things that I learned from him, here we go again. What is the most valuable piece of information? Perfect. Whose? No. An infant's. Because by the time that person goes to use it, maybe to buy a car at 16, 17, There's 16 or 17 years of opportunity for somebody that has gotten that Social Security number to use it. So that's why you could also consider putting a freeze on a minor's credit. They're not really going to be buying anything. And if they are, you lift the credit, the freeze up. Okay? Very definitely consider it. The best credit-worthy action that you can take for your child or grandchild is to get them a credit card around the age of 18 and be a co-signer on it. Obviously, you need to set the ground rules. But what that's going to do is that's going to let them start to establish credit so that when they go to college, when they go to buy a car, anything of that nature, they're going to already have some credit established. 90% of perpetrators are family members or somebody that the person knew well. 90%. Staggering. And sad. Let's see. You can certainly tell your children, your grandchildren this. If they're applying for a new job, be very careful what they post on Facebook. A lot of the companies will go and search somebody's Facebook profile to see what kind of person they're considering hiring. You can't blame them, but just be very careful. And also, when you're posting shots on Facebook, and trust me, I do not follow this, my husband does not follow this, but don't post straight pictures of yourself. Do a little side profile, because if somebody's going to take your picture and use it for their own financial gain, they're not going to be able to use a picture like this, but just like your driver's license picture or identification card picture, it has to be straight on. Use a black or blue Uniball pen when you're writing out checks or signing important documents, because that cannot be altered. Okay. And this happens to be another scam. A lot of us still write out checks to pay our bills, and it's very convenient, isn't it, just to go out your mailbox, put the bills in there, and put that little red flag up? A lot of us do that. Well, it's nice and convenient for the scammers, because now you're telling them, hey, I don't have to go through 10 mailboxes on Main Street. That one over there has mail sitting in it. So be very careful. If you can, use the post box. I don't know if you have a mail pickup here. There you go. Use something like that. It's a lot safer, okay? And the other thing, too, is that scammers will also take a bill that you've put in your mailbox, say went to Eversource. You know it's probably going to be at least $100 or so. And what they'll do is they'll whitewash it. So they'll get rid of the name Eversource and put their own name in and then cash it. So that's why you want to use a safe way of getting your bills into the post box, such as a site here. And also with deliveries, if you know you're going to be getting a delivery, people at our office will have important deliveries delivered to our office before 5 o'clock because somebody's always going to be there. But to have them sitting on a porch, again, it's a red flag for a scammer. And especially around the holidays, you always read about it or hear about it on the news. A lot of, again, getting back to paying by check. It's very, Frank Abagnale was saying that is one of the worst ways that you can pay because you're giving the person your bank information, bank account number, and the routing number. If you can, pay by credit card. Also, not only is it safer, but if you have a dispute, you can contact the credit card company and discuss it with them. After you're done paying your bills, reconciling your credit card statements, shred the information, which I think a lot of people these days do. However, before I listened to Frank, I had a shredder that I put the stuff in there and the stuff would go right down nice and neat and everything. And then I listened to Frank, and Frank's like, yeah, that's not that difficult to tape all that paperwork back together. If a person has time on their hands, they want to do it, get a microcross shredder. That will shred it into tiny little pieces that they cannot put back together again. Let's see. ATMs. Be very careful when you go to the ATM. As I said, try to block inputting your personal information. Also, be leery that make sure that ATM looks like the ATM machine that you've come to know and come to expect to be there. In other words, what I mean is that scammers will put what they call skimmers on the bottom. It's like a little piece of rubber that attaches to where you put your card in. And it's another way of stealing your personal information. And the really sad part is that you can purchase a skimmer on the internet for about $200. So again, take precaution. Let's see. Never send money to someone you do not personally know, even if they sit there and, again, the grandparent scam. I have to say, a lot of banks, a lot of stores, like CVS, grocery stores, and so forth, they've really become a lot more savvy in asking questions. When a 75-year-old person goes to CVS to purchase $5,000 on green dot cards, it raises a couple of eyebrows, and they should be doing that for their customers. Okay, so be aware of that, or even if somebody tells you, oh yeah, I got this call, I had to go down, they wanted, me to purchase purchase some green dot cards. Have a conversation with them. They may not appreciate it then, but they will later. Let's see. If you're communicating, you get those emails from somebody that says, oh, I want to marry you. I'm the king of wherever. That's the extreme. But you also get these unsolicited emails, and we get so much spam. Be careful for some of the red flags, such as grammatical errors, misspelled words, things of that nature. Usually, that's an indication that English is not this person's primary language. Again, just to raise your suspicions a little bit so you can check it out. And of course, always be cautious of somebody that's trying to communicate with you from out of the country, okay? They will also, scammers will also use the excuse, well, I'm in the armed forces, so that's why I can't meet with you. But my house is available if you want to rent it. All you have to do is just, here are all the pictures on it, and you can just wire the deposit to this particular account. People do it. People do it. I forget how many, guy lost, I think, $1,000 when he called our office. And that was it. The guy said that he was not available to meet with him. And we all have soft spots for our military. So the scammers know that. Again, one more reason why they would use that as a pretext. Let's see. Let's see. I think that's about it. The most important thing I can tell you is that if you feel that you have been a victim of scam, contact our office immediately. We'll do whatever we possibly can to help you out. Contact your local law enforcement. Contact your credit reporting bureaus if it's a financial situation. Contact those people that you feel would have an interest in the information that you may have provided to a scammer. I do have a sheet of paper up here, just preserving your personal information. It's really very important that you notify those that have a financial interest with you, your accountant, financial advisor, bank, credit reporting bureau, things of that nature, okay? And then the other thing that I wanted to say is, especially for people that live alone, and this kind of happened with as a result of an accident my mother-in-law had when she lives out in Oregon, was coming to visit us, waiting for the taxi to bring her to the airport, about to leave the house. She trips over a bag. She catches her foot on the handle, trips over a bag, whacks her eye right into the door handle, bleeding everywhere and so forth. And I said, Lucienne, if something was to happen to you, how would you tell somebody who to contact? How would you tell somebody what medications you're on? So it started me thinking, and I said, gosh, I just started putting together just a list. It's over there. Please help yourself to it. Add to it, do whatever you want. But it's really important that first responders know what hospital you want to go to, your insurance company information, who to contact, how to contact them, all that information. And you can either post it on your refrigerator. Some people are not comfortable doing that because, I have this, handyman that comes in, whatever. That's okay. Ladies, you carry a purse a lot, put it on a flash drive, put it in your purse. It's always with you. And the other thing that people will do is they'll put it in a glass jar and put it in their refrigerator. People are like, refrigerator? But that's the first place first responders are going to look to see what medications you're taking. Okay? So again, it's, try to make yourself as secure as possible without going crazy over it. But make sure that you're doing whatever you can to protect yourself in a variety of ways. Okay. Any questions? Yes. For what? Well, okay, and that's something I want to just clear. Thank you for bringing that up. Attorney General's offices around the country are set up differently. Some have civil authority, some have criminal authority, some have both. Our office happens to have civil authority. Now, that does not mean that if we get a complaint in the office that we feel warrants criminal investigation, we won't do anything with it. Not at all. We work with the Chief State's Attorney's Office. They investigate criminal matters. Or we'll work with local police departments. We'll also work with different state agencies, such as Department of Social Services. If we feel that there's somebody, a person that needs to have some well visits done to them, for them, we can pop an email off. We've got great contacts over there. They will look into it. It's hard to give you a phone number for our office, and I say that only because we have a lot of different departments within our agency. Now, where I am, and I'm in consumer protection, is 860-808-5400. That's the main number. And then they can kind of route your call, from there as well. Okay. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Appreciate it. Thank you.